Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to another edition of Light 360. So excited to bring Light 360 to you again today. We had such an awesome time yesterday with Jenny. Great conversation, inspiring conversation. And today we have a treat for you on Light 360. It's going to be a powerful one. I've actually been looking forward to this since we started this season 3. So I want to welcome you all joining us. Don't forget, share the video, like the video, take the link and send it to your WhatsApp, list or any other list that you have. Let's just spread the word because God is about to do something amazing, 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 amazing today. Once again, Light 360 is set up to inspire you. We look around for people who inspire us, people who are lights in their spheres of influence, where God has put them, and we bring them on and they share their stories. And as we listen to their stories and have conversations about them and what they do, we all get inspired to be greater lights in our own world. So that's what Light 360 is all about. And this is our season 3. We have been having very powerful guests from, all different nations, Chicago and all around. And today our guest is going to be joining us from Arizona. So we have a guest from the desert. The voice of the world crying in the desert, make straight the way of the Lord. So let me introduce our guest today because I want us to really, really maximize the time today. I want us to maximize the time today. So let me quickly introduce him. So you can see him. He's the one right there that I'm pointing at. But more about him, he's just multifaceted. He's an author, he's an apostle, just in different ways that God has used him, and in the ministry that he actually leads right now, conducts right now. So let me read his bio to you so that you can have a very good picture of the person we have, and then I will do my own personal introduction about how we met and all that. So we have Dr. Ed Delph on today, and he has been responding to God's call to the church, the community, and the nation since 1979. Wow, that's a lot of years. That's a lot of years to be doing the same thing and just continuing to herald the kingdom and spread and expand the kingdom of God. That's something to talk about. He has ministered or been in over 100 countries. That's another one that we're definitely going to be talking about. 100 countries. Wow. I mean, I don't know many people that have been to 100 countries. I don't know. As well as serving as a pastor in the United States. Previously, he was the founder and president of Central Bindery, a large book bindery in Phoenix, Arizona. He was a founding pastor of Hosanna Christian Fellowship in 1987 that started with 36 people and quickly grew to 70 regular attendees with some services over 750 regular attendees with some services over 1,000 in the early 1990s. Hosanna was instrumental in many city reaching and community transformational initiatives in the Phoenix, Arizona area, as well as the world. Several churches were planted out of Hosanna, both locally and internationally. Ed received his doctorate of ministry in February 2004 from the Phoenix University of Theology, along with Bishop Wellington Boone and some other people. He graduated in 1971 with a BS in personnel management from the Arizona State University School of Business. And he has taken several postgraduate courses with Talbot and Fuller Seminary. A noted speaker, pastor, author, an apostolic figure to many churches, locally and internationally. Ed has served the church as well as a church. He's the president of Nation Strategy, an organization that unleashes the potential of communities through the strategic alliance of church, business, government, education, and media for the benefit of the community. Nation Strategy was started in 2000 with the strategy of envisioning and empowering some of today's leaders in the church to be some of tomorrow's leaders in the community. That's powerful. The role of Nation Strategy is to reveal mind skins that create wineskins and environments for community transformation and upliftment. Simply said, Nation Strategy envisions and empowers community and church leaders for societal transformation by case presenting, teaching, coaching, and mentoring. He's the past Dean of Faith in Culture at Phoenix University of Theology, and he served on the National Association of Ecclesiology with leader Dan Reeves. This association is a coalition of major seminary presidents, denominational heads, and leaders of church movements. That is just an official bio of Dr. Ed Delph, our guest for today on Life 360. But let me give you the unofficial bio. So I had started pastoring City Light Church in Chicago in 2005. So I took a trip. I actually took a trip outside the country to the Ukraine. I went to Ukraine, to meet a mentor of mine then. And, so I saw some things that really inspired me. Then I got back. From Ukraine. I opened my mail and I see a book from Charisma Publishing sent to me. I was like, what book is this? I saw it, big book, Church at Community. I was like, I got to read this, because that was basically what was on my heart right now. God has spoken to us about pastoring a church. I'd been pastoring from Nigeria, and then I was, I'd already been pastoring for a while here in the United States for about 3 years, at another church. And God began to speak to me about the concept of a church without walls, a church where the city becomes your parish, a church where the focus is on getting the saints marching out, not just getting the saints marching in. So God had already started speaking to me about that, and I was just mulling on that. And this book just came. And as I sat down to read the book was a revolution in my life. And I credit a lot of things that, I do right now, the philosophy that I have concerning church, and just operating a kingdom church. I credit that to this book when I came in contact with this book and read it through. So immediately I read it, I was like, man, this book cannot be kept secret. I mean, this is the best book I've ever read, on, church and, the community and all that. So I contacted Nation Strategy. That's the ministry of Dr. Ed Delph. I remember then, I sent an email. I was like, I want to order some copies of this book because I'm going to Nigeria for a mission trip. So I ordered several copies, they sent it to me, and then I took it to Nigeria and I gave it to pastors. I was just giving out to all the top pastors there that I knew, and I sent it to those that I didn't know. So deliver it to this person, deliver it to that person, that you got to read this. And, I'm very, just excited to know that as at that time when this book, came to Nigeria, the church in Nigeria had a kind of a different focus then, doing great and all that. But traveling to Nigeria over and over for some years, I see that the church is actually beginning to reflect more of what was in that book. And I remember one of the top leaders then, Pastor Tony Rappo of this present house. I gave the book to him, and it was like, wow, he read it. It was like this was transformational to him. So he actually asked me for the contact of Dr. Delph and brought him to Nigeria. to come and, speak, there. And, just so many things. A lot of people know Pastor Tony Rappo. They know this present house and the unique way that they do ministry. Since then, they've started many, many churches that reach out to people on the street, just all kinds of things, doing transformational stuff for the community. So if you guys want to know some of the inspiration behind that, well, you are at the right place, because we are privileged to have Dr. Ed Delph with us today for Light 360. So without any more ado, we're going to be bringing to Light 360 Dr. Ed Delph. Please, let's welcome Dr. Ed Delph to Light 360.
Well, thank you very much, Pastor Lan. Wow, Dr. Lan. I like that, Dr. Lan.
I wanted to be like you, so I wanted to be like you. So I had to get a doctor. So
man, I think it's wonderful, Lan. If listen, whatever a doctor is, if you want a doctor, I'm not Ed. Okay, so you have your doctor. You're a practitioner. You're a pracademic. And you're out there touching the troops. I just love it, man. Thank you so much for having me, for all the team that's there and what you're doing. I look at you all the time on my Facebook, and I just smile to myself. I said, those guys, I just look at you guys and say, that dog will hunt. Okay, so your tail is up, man.
Awesome.
Your tail's not between your legs. Your tail is up. Okay.
Yes, and one thing all of you should know about Dr. Delph is that, he's gifted with some, ways of communicating that, he can put powerful truth in a story or a statement that you will never forget. There are some statements that you've made that I keep remembering them, and I just laugh because it just stuck. You found Nemo. It's one of them. Wake up, wake up, shake up, put on your makeup. I can't forget all this stuff. So this dog will hunt is another one.
Yeah, I like it. That's a Southern expression.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great expression. When you see something that really hits the mark, that really touches you, they say that dog will hunt, and so, I always say that duck will swim, or I can do variations of it, Dr. Lan. But I just like that. And when I see you guys seriously, being very serious now, I kind of love to have fun. That's my name is Ed. Ed means a cheerful conqueror. Okay, wow. So a cheerful conqueror. So I have fun, and while I'm putting my head on top of the devil, okay, I'm conquering and I'm laughing at the same time. Let's have fun, because I don't like the alternative, Dr. Lan.
Yes, I love fun too. So we're going to have fun today. Well, my wife is saying hello to you. You can see it right there. She's watching.
Hi, Debo.
All right. So guys watching, please spread this, because we're about to get into it. Spread the word. Post it in WhatsApp. Pastor Olu, help us, spread it also. Post it, like it, because we're about to get into some powerful conversations, and we want as many people as possible to at least benefit life. I know some people are going to watch afterwards. So Dr. Ed Delph, so you are the president of Nation Strategy. We just read your bio. I have your books, several of them that you have written right here. Just some of them. There are still others that you have written. This is the one that really, really transformed my ministry, the church at community and all that. I want to ask by, asking the same question that I ask people that come. The first question I ask them, tell us a little bit about how you started. How did it all begin for you when you were born?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for asking me. And it is an interesting story and a powerful story. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona. You don't find too many natives in Phoenix at all. Actually, my father's getting retired in 97. He was a native of Phoenix too. 1924, there was only 20,000 people in Phoenix at that time. So I'm a native. We watched this city grow. My grandfather was a farmer, John Jacobs Farms, and actually owned probably 70% of the city on the northwest quadrant, all in farms and so forth. So I grew up on farm and in cattle ranches, and my family's always been in cattle. And so I'm Cowboy Ed. You can call me Cowboy Ed. I spent a lot of time on a horse, believe me.
Awesome.
And I've just enjoyed every second of it. But, I was very much like anybody else growing up at that time. I started playing guitar when I was 13 years old because the Beatles came in, and that inspired me. And we were in a band, one of the biggest bands in Phoenix, and playing at all the great spots and so forth. And then our band broke up because our bass player went to Carnegie Mellon and different things like that. As you get older. Yeah. And then we got into race cars. I set a couple of national records.
Wow.
And in NHRA.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, 327 Camaro, 427 Camaro as a national record holder for quite a long time. Just drag race semi-professionally. But of course, all the time going to school. And I did go to Arizona State University and got a degree in personnel management. I've always been kind of a people person. Yeah. And so when I graduated, and I'm sorry, I'm giving you my age. You should be embarrassed to have somebody this old on your show, Pastor Ron.
I want the wisdom of the wisdom of the elders.
I mean, when I went to school, there were still dinosaurs on Earth, so it's terrible, but in any event, got that degree. When I graduated, the economy was way down. And so I ended up getting this job in a mortuary chain. Wow. Of all things. We had 4 mortuaries and 1 cemetery and about 80 employees or so. It was a pretty big chain here in town in Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah. And I was the office manager trainee. I wasn't on the doing, embalming and doing stuff like that, but I was on the business end of it and did very well in those 3 years I was there. Ended up in a few years as secretary of this big corporation. I'm just a 23-year-old kid, and here I am at this big organization and all of that. And then I became a Christian in 1974, March of 1974. My next door neighbor had been sharing with me about Jesus. And
that's the year I was born. That was the year I was born the first time.
Yeah. It's so, I prayed. I was in Pine Top, Arizona, where we have a place up in the Pines here too that we just got this year, and or I should say last year, and in 2020, and up on Pine Top on a golf course at 3 a.m. in the morning on a snowmobile. The Lord just spoke to me, and I just stopped the snowmobile, leaned back on the snowmobile, and asked Christ to my heart. And from then, I don't think I've ever turned back. It's like anything. When you first start, you have a kind of until your mind gets transformed and stuff, you have a few ups and downs. But really, from the moment I started, got saved, there was like this little voice in my head, honestly. I was just kept going, and I thought, what is this? And it said, I want you to go into business. I want you to go into business. I want you to quit this job and go into business. And it was really kind of weird because there was nothing wrong with where I was working, all of that type of stuff. There's nothing wrong, but that voice kept coming back. And at this little mini church that I was going to that time, that my neighbor was the pastor of, there was a printer there and owned a small print shop, just himself and, a person or two. And he told me about this book bindery in Phoenix that the people that owned it were in their 80s. They should have retired in their 60s, and they were down to 1 customer and all of this stuff. So I looked at that business. I looked actually at another one too. I had $3,000. And so basically, make long story short, the Lord just kept telling me the book bindery. And I'm going, God, I don't know anything about the printing business. I mean, the only thing I know about the printing business is how to print in memory of folders, on our printing press. Okay. I printed many of those. But as I went in there, I just, I just took a step of faith. Ended up buying that business. Just all it was old equipment. Didn't know anything about the bookbindery business or the printing industry in any detail,
Mhm.
And so we just started, just me, and I found somebody that knew something about the business, Mike Anderson, and
Mhm.
he was actually more of a printer than he was in bindery, but he knew how to do it. It was a start. We got our foot in the door, and 6 years later, I had 43 employees,
Mhm.
the equivalent of 19,000 feet,
Wow.
and we're the largest bindery in town. Our competitor, who was very big and really picked on us for the first 3 years,
Mhm.
we just blew right by him. It was just a God deal all the way. And
Wow.
so here I am. I have this business. I'm 29 years old. Have a good salary. I've got a successful business, all that stuff. And then that same voice came up again,
Yeah,
Lon.
we're going to talk about that voice some more as we go.
I'm just telling you, whose voice are you listening to? That's my message today.
Yeah.
Whose voice are you listening to?
Mhm.
And that same voice came up and says, I want you to sell the business and go into the ministry.
Mm.
And what I said, oh my goodness, Lord, do you know how much they pay those guys? And all of that stuff. I'm going,
Oh,
no, no.
how much they don't pay them? They don't pay those guys.
So I thought, oh no, here I am. I'm a marketplace minister. Everything's going along good. I'm pastoring my people. I mean, my office the last year. Dr. Len, I'm serious. This is nothing I've told you here is an exaggeration. Okay, I'm
Mhm.
under exaggerating. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm on purpose doing that.
Mhm.
Um, but my office became like a counseling center. Somebody was going through a divorce. When you have that many 43 people on staff, somebody's always going to be going through something.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting people saved and
Mm.
and all of that type of stuff.
Mhm.
And I just really got excited about was getting excited about the ministry. And then my former pastor, the pastor who led me in the Lord, called me up. It was 1979. And he
Mm.
says, I'm going to Indonesia to do some pastors' conferences. Do you want to come with me?
Wow.
And so, I took my guitar. We did some full gospel business meetings in Jakarta, did a couple pastors' conference in Malang, Indonesia, right up Surabaya,
Mhm.
and then Denpasar, Bali,
Mm.
and then in Jakarta and so forth. And it was just amazing. And I just brought my guitar, sang, did all that type of stuff. And I had 3,000 people in a ping pong stadium in Malang, Indonesia. They
Mm.
had no idea what I was singing, but they just went crazy, And
Mhm.
I thought, what is this, And so Indonesia was the first country, that besides, I guess we stopped over in Japan and Singapore on the way there.
Mhm.
But in any event, on that plane flying back, that's when the Lord spoke to me. And so it took me about 9 months to sell the business.
Mhm.
And the value of that business doubled in that 9 months.
Wow. Mm.
And so, here I am. And so we put the 3,000 into it, got a loan,
Mhm.
and got all of that paid off, and everything was nothing, didn't owe anybody anything. So I sold that business for, it was just right at $1 million. It's like 989,000 some odd dollars. So
Mm.
turn that 3,000 into almost seven figures, just
Yeah.
$11,000 short of, actually 10,000 some odd dollars short of that.
Yeah.
And, at 29 years old, that was a big win. I mean, basically I was a millionaire.
Mhm.
And, at 29, and just created wealth. I just created wealth. I mean, just happened to be at the right place at the right time with the right product, just everything aligned.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy,
Mhm.
especially for the first 3 years, but everything aligned.
Mhm.
And then so sold the business, and then I was a single, and the church I was going to had a big singles ministry. It was a couple hundred, 300 maybe at that point.
Mhm.
And they were looking, that ministry got so big, they were looking for somebody. So I ended up being the first non-seminary educated pastor they'd ever had. It was a fundamental church,
Yeah.
if you can believe that, fundamental,
Wow.
And so that was a miracle. Those
Mhm.
guys don't want you in their church
Yeah.
unless you have 4 doctorates, okay?
Mhm. Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
And so, and then we grew that to 550 singles with this church called Grace Community Church in Tempe, Arizona, right by Arizona State. And so did singles ministry, and then started another singles ministry, another church that I'd been going to, wanted me to go to them. And so I went to them. We started with 16 and we're having services of 275, and all of that. So good numbers, big enough to be significant. I was doing singles. My singles ministry got kind of famous internationally. So I was doing singles conferences in Uganda, in Kenya, in South Africa, in Australia. I mean, I went international on that.
How old were you then when you started?
I was 30 years old, 30, 31, 32 in that area.
Yeah.
And up to, from that period, in the two churches, I started at age 30, and then we started our own church when I was 38 years old. So I did that for basically 7 years.
Yeah.
And a little over 7 years. But it was just a wonderful experience. And singles ministry is one of your books up there. This one, this Learning How to Trust here book is, it's the whole thing. And this was all stuff that we learned in singles ministry and so forth. Dr. Gary Smalley, John Trent, all these great guys, that endorse this thing. And it's surprise, type of thing. But on that, so, and then, so we did singles ministry, had a season of that, and then started our own church, Hosanna Christian Fellowship, which basically was a prophetic church. I mean, we're talking an hour worship, an hour word, and an hour ministry for 7 years straight.
8 hours.
7 years straight. Yeah, it was like an African service, man. I felt like I was at Robert Kayanja's church in Uganda. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I started Robert's church, Lebago Miracle Center, back in 1983 or something back there. And not Obote, who was the Idi Amin had just been kicked out, and Obote was back in the second time. They had to place guards at my door, But I've been to 22 countries of Africa, which I'm very proud to say that.
Wow.
And you know what the Africans say to me? You cannot fool us. You are black on the inside.
Cannot fool us.
You cannot fool us. You are black on the inside. I love the African accent and love you guys. And I'm always at home when I'm with people like you. So in any event, we started Hosanna, and it quickly grew. And in a few years, we were having services of we had a couple services over 1,000 people, but we averaged about 775 to 800. But all the greatest in America were coming. Peter Wagner, Cindy Jacob, all those people back then, Robert, some of the African guys who come in and the big guys, and we just had a great time. So that's kind of my story. And then I heard the voice again in 2000, at the turn of the century, there at the millennial.
Yeah.
And get rid of your church, give it to somebody else. And I want you to pastor the nations. I want you to pastor pastors. You have an international ministry. I had even some people, 2 experts, come in and do an organizational study here. I'm trying to get the 2, the organizational study. And basically what they said is you have a choice, Ed. You can change 800 people's life, or you can change the world. And that was their exact words. Al Els and Gary Kinnaman. Al's a very famous guy, got a lot of books and so forth. One of them has over 100,000 copies. It's called One-Way Relationships. Be sure and get it out there, people. You'll love it. But in any event, so I started on this, what I've been doing the last 20 years, which is nation strategy. And our job is to, what we really do is equip people like you. I would call you Robert, Lon. I would call you a first line ministry. You're on the cutting edge. You're the one who's got the light 360s. You're out ministering to people. What I do is I just try and help you and your church to be better at what you do.
Yeah. And
then so I'm a resource ministry for people like you. And wow, so that's kind of what I've done for the last 20 years. And like you read what we do. We envision, empower community and church leaders for societal transformation and uplift.
Mhm.
Our job is we're looking for a city whose architect and builder
It's good.
is God.
Awesome.
And that's our job. I have 4 words that I describe my life by. Yeah, I think you probably agree with these. And one of them you said 3 or 4 times already. I inspire.
Yep.
I equip.
Mm.
I care. In other words, I'm just not a speaker who goes through, sells some books, gets an honorarium, and then moves on. I tend to get involved with the family. I become like a father to your church, or family to your church, or whatever the right word is. Just a resource. I'm not the source. I'm a resource. Okay.
Yeah.
But I just go in and do that. And so inspire, equip, I care, which makes us very unique. We get, I form a relationship just with the guy. We're friends, and we end up being colleagues. But last thing I do is I solve problems for people where they are not kind of seeing the problem. Maybe it might be a problem in their church, and so I help come out just an outside view and say, have you ever thought of this? You ever thought of this? You ever thought of this? And so I call myself a solutionary. I'm not a missionary. I'm a solutionary,
Wow.
which is what you guys are. You're solutionaries.
Awesome.
And so those 4 things are what I do. If you guys out there watching have a church, or you're in Nigeria or someplace like that, please get in touch with me. I'd love to come serve you. That's why we formed this ministry. We've been going on 20 years now. Took a little break here during the COVID thing, because most of my ministry is international now these days. And so I haven't done most of the United States, although that's starting to spring up again. But I'm international, and I generally do large group of people or teaching groups of people, in 50s or 100s or whatever. So both of those things, COVID shut down. No international travel and no speaking to groups.
Wow.
So, but now that things are starting to pick up a little bit. So that's my story, Lon, and thanks for asking me. I hope that wasn't too long or detailed.
Oh, it was
you
good.
Tell me if I'm going too long.
You gave me a lot of materials that we're going to plow through. So let's start with the voice. So it looks as if your life has been directed by that voice, because I could see different transitions. You said you had the voice, you had the voice, you had the voice. So took you from being a cowboy, right, to a business owner, employing about 43 people, selling a business for almost like $1 million, approximately $1 million, took you to pastoring, right? And then now to 100 nations of the world. Tell me about that voice, like our audience. Can you talk about that voice, that led you?
Yes, I sure can. In fact, one of your books back there, I think, Pastor Land, Redefining Rhema is my latest book.
Yes.
Lance Wallnow wrote the forward for it. I do Lance's dream conferences and stuff that he has. And I wrote that along with my guy that's been with me 30 years, Dave Lake. I told him, I said, Dave, you're the one that kept bugging me to write this book, and Dave was a prophetic guy. He owns a large pool company here, or I'd say a medium, but growing like crazy pool company here in Phoenix. He'll probably do 300 pools this year, and that'd be $15-16 million in sales. It's getting to be a pretty big business now. He was just a construction worker when he came into me at 24. He and his wife, they had at 24 years old, they had 4 kids. So I called them kids with kids. And here we are together after all these years. And so Dave being a prophetic guy, I wanted him. I wrote 10 chapters. Dave wrote 5. And it's just on, here faith cometh by hearing the word of God. So faith comes by hearing. Faith comes by hearing God. Trust comes by knowing God. And there's a Yeah,
That is
huge
powerful.
difference in those two.
That is
Faith cometh by hearing. Yeah, faith cometh by hearing God. Trust comes by knowing God. And
Mhm.
so faith, whenever you have faith, whenever that faith is deposited in you, and I mean, not just using it as a formula to get
Mhm.
what you want to get, when
Mhm.
I have enough faith. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about that. I'm talking about the faith that comes by rhema. When it's a rhema,
Mhm.
you don't have to find faith. Faith finds you.
Number
Sorry, here I should be looking at the screen here. I'm looking at Pastolan here.
no,
So,
it's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
but it's so true. Now
Yeah.
think of that, guys out there. My all my audience right now, or Lon's audience and my audience at the moment.
Mhm.
Um, when it's a rhema,
Yeah.
you don't have to find faith.
Mm.
Faith finds you. A
Mm.
rhema is a faith-infused utterance
Mhm.
from God speaking presently to
Yeah.
give you wisdom, guidance, direction,
Mhm.
clarity,
Mhm.
all of those types of things. And so when it's that type of word, and you notice in all those years, I had about 4 or 5 of those that were really important rhemas. I
Mm.
mean, I didn't know the word for it, but
Yeah.
it wasn't just truth. It was truth with light.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And it was, let me put it this way. That's the way I said in the book. It was biblically correct and spiritually accurate for
Hmm.
my times.
Yeah.
For this occasion, this need, it was biblically correct but spiritually accurate.
Mhm.
And you know how it is. A logos is, you can use the right verse for completely the wrong occasion.
Yes.
Are you
Mhm.
with me? Now,
Yep.
the devil did that. He told
Yeah.
Jesus, just, he shall give his heart, just jump off the cliff.
Yeah.
Okay, Jesus, here it is right in the Bible. It's
Yeah.
just in the Bible. Here it is, Jesus.
Mhm.
Most Christians would just read that, and just jump right off the cliff. And God would say, bye.
Mhm.
I love you.
Mhm.
You're going to be in heaven,
Yeah. Mhm.
but bye.
Yeah.
So, in any event, the whole idea here is that when it's a rhema, and
Mhm.
that's Romans 10:17, when
Mhm.
it's a rhema, you don't have to find faith. Faith finds you, and
Yeah.
you will know it. You will just, boom.
Mhm.
Here's Gabriel. He's talking to Mary,
Mm.
and uh, you know, um, Mary says, how can I be pregnant? I've never been with a man.
Mhm.
And the Gabriel says, and this is the literal translation in your Bible, my Bible here, it
Mhm.
says nothing is impossible for God. But the real Greek rendering, the word rhema is in that. And
Mm.
what the angel was saying is no rhema spoken by God will not happen.
Happen. It's void of
If it's a
power.
rhema,
Mhm.
it will happen.
Yeah.
And you know what Mary did? Be it done according to your word. And that word there's rhema. Be
Yeah.
it done according to your rhema.
Mm. Mm.
And I could give you lots of other examples, but that's just a small one. So Mary knew right away what it was. It was a rhema.
Yeah.
And so in any event, hearing the voice of God, what this book is about,
Mm.
I go through a little bit the normal ways, like the Tulsa and having enough faith and
Mm.
all that type of approach. But we wanted to give, I want to get to the one where, dude, if God said it, and how do I know it's a rhema? I instantly have faith for it. I
Mhm.
did when God said sell your business,
Yeah.
there was no doubt about it. One of my chapters says no doubt about it. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
there was no doubt about it.
You just know.
And
You just know it, and that's.
yeah, you got it. You
Mhm.
perfect. It's an aha moment.
Yeah.
It's like, and boom, inside of you, it's like when, who do people say that I am? And
Mhm.
Peter gets this rhema.
Yeah.
A rhema changed him
Yeah.
from Simon, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
to Peter,
Peter.
or from his old name to his
Yeah.
new name to Peter. Are you with me?
Yeah.
A rhema turned Saul into Paul,
Yeah.
and a rhema Abram into
Abraham.
Abraham. Yeah,
Wow.
we go through this, and it was a rhema that was there. Abraham went out, not knowing where he's going,
Mhm.
because God led him, by faith,
Yeah.
by hearing a rhema from God,
Yeah.
Abram went out,
In
even
fact,
though he didn't know where he was going.
the whole of Hebrews 11, right? All those heroes of the faith, they all heard that voice, right?
That's
The
right.
world
It was a
was framed
rhema
by the
encounter.
rhema of God, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so they
I mean,
all
think of
kept on doing it. Yes, go ahead.
Think of Rahab. You know, I mean, it doesn't even matter if you're a harlot or anybody can get a rhema. You know, if God gives it. I mean, here's you know, she's risking her life. You know, but
Yeah.
she just knew that she knew that she knew wherever these guys are, I got to take care of them. I did it. She did it in confidence, and she got her. She's a faith. She's in the Faith Hall of Fame because she did that. You know, and I think in Jesus's family line too. You know, so you know, on and on we go, Pastor Lon.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, for those who are watching and they are excited about Rhema, you know, the voice has led you. Some people are in the valley of decisions. They are confused and all that. And the question they're asking is, how do I hear God's voice in my own life? What will you tell them?
Well, I think that, you know, it depends on, you know, what your issue is. You know, I mean, if you have all this emotional turmoil and so forth like that, the way that you know that is a rhema is that there will be instant, you will have the faith to say, it's okay. It's going to work out. I'm going to pick myself up and we're going to go. I mean, because why? Faith is infused in you. Are you with me? And so, I mean, that's the scary thing. Now, rhema is, you know, there's, let me explain it this way, Pastor Len, this will help. This I got from writing the book. There's what I call bottom-up faith. Okay, bottom-up faith. In other words, here, Jesus, how do you say it? The woman who, with the issue of blood, who touched Jesus. I mean, God didn't speak to her on that. She just knew that she had to be there, and she pressed through. It was her faith. Jesus seeing her faith.
Yeah.
When the guys dropped when the guys dropped the guy down into the house,
it was initiated by them. It was faith initiated by them.
Yeah,
God
yeah.
didn't know anything
Jesus seeing their faith.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So this was what I call bottom us to God type of faith. But then, and that's one category, okay, of faith. And the guys, Copeland and Hagen, and you know, people like that. A lot of the African guys, teachers, it's like me having enough faith to get up to there.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, what we're trying to say in this book, we're talking about, it's top down. It comes from God. It's a faith-infused utterance. You don't have to find faith. Faith finds you. And I believe the reason I wrote this book, I wrote it in the introduction. I don't think us believers understand one bit what faith is. Or rhema, you know, we've heard the word, we have cognition of it, but we don't have recognition of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's just knowledge, but it's not revelation. And so we're looking for the wrong things. We're looking for us to have enough faith to get up to there. When in reality, I would just say, okay, that's great. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. Don't get me wrong. But there is a better faith, a higher faith. And that's rhema. It's used 70 times. It's in 70 verses of the New Testament. It's even in the Old Testament. Man shall not live by bread alone, but on every rhema that proceeds from the Lord. Every faith-infused utterance that receives from the Lord. If you look at Jesus when he was being tempted in that wilderness temptation, there was 3 rhemas. You know, it was a rhema. He was in the Garden of Rhema. Are you with me? And each time it was a rhema, kaboom, you know, the devil says, you know, turn these stones into bread or whatever, you know. And the first thing Jesus says is, God didn't tell me to do that. I mean, a lot of people would say, oh,
it's in the Bible.
Rock, it's in the Bible. Rock, I bred you. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, if it didn't happen, then God didn't tell you to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so what did God tell him? Jesus just said, well, you know, I guess I could. I mean, I could turn that rock into bread, but God didn't tell me to.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything until I hear first, speak second.
Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every rhema.
Yeah, every rhema.
That comes from the
Each
mouth.
time, so he waits, and all of a sudden, here it comes, a faith-infused utterance. Kabam! And he had instant faith to look at the devil in the face and say, man shall not, God just told me, man, here's a biblically correct, spiritually accurate answer for the devil in this case, and it's this. Man shall not, it's a different logos than the one you're using, this logos that nothing is possible for God. But God wants me to use this logos back here in Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
Are you with me? That says, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that proceeds, every rhema that proceeds from the mouth of God. Why did he do that? Because he knew it, because he instantly had the faith. He didn't have the faith to turn that stone into bread.
Yeah. Yes, he didn't. Yeah.
But he had the faith to give the
tell
devil the right answer.
I want to, because this is so powerful. I read your book. I know you gave me an autographed copy when you visited Chicago, and I took it. I was going to Nigeria to minister at a conference, and I took the book and studied it. And of course, some of those things filtered out of my mouth, but it's powerful in the sense that it explained to me some of the experiences that I have had personally. So I know times where I have to do what you call the bottom-up faith. Like I look into the word, I meditate and all that, then faith just comes. But I've received certain words, like the word to come to the United States, was a rhema. The word of even my wife, like marrying my wife, like I was praying, the word just came. And then starting City Light Church, and then of course going to the nations, like things like that. Even some building projects and all that I will get involved, or moves, the thing will come. You just know it, that this, you don't know, you can't explain to people, right? Some of them can't even understand, like why are we doing this and all that. But right inside of you, you just know that this is what God is saying for the moment, right?
That's right.
But it's not necessarily, if you go into the Bible and read, it's scriptural, right? But it's just the scripture applied to the moment. So where I would like you to really talk is, it must mean that for you to be able to walk in such a thing, you have to have a relationship with God, like a functional relationship, with God, for you to be able to receive such things. Is that true?
Yeah, I call it, it's like a radar. I got my little radar, things turn, but you won't hear it if you aren't listening for it. Hear first, speak second. And I think most people, they try and, I'm going to do a bottom-up faith. If I just get enough faith, and I'm going to do it that way. And God's saying, I don't want you to do that. I'm going to speak to you. You will know it's me, because faith will be infused in it, and there will be no doubt about it.
Let me say something. There's a minister in Nigeria. You probably know him, Davido Edepo, who is known for faith, like strong faith. So I used to attend his church then and listen to his messages, and I still do. And he will make certain statements about faith then that used to, just astound me. And I began to understand later what he's talking about. He will say statement like, you have not seen it. Like when you see it, there is no doubt. There is no, you won't need to say where is faith or anything. You just, it's because you have not seen it. He'll be making statement like that. And you'll see when he's talking that there's something, there's something that he receives that just moves him forward. That's what you were talking about, right?
Yeah. It's like Peter's walking down, and there's this whole aisle of beggars in Acts 3. There's all of a sudden God says, that's the one you pray for. He could have prayed for all of them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But all of a sudden he's just walking by, and what's he got? I guarantee you, he had his ears open. And all of a sudden God spoke, and he didn't have faith. He wasn't supposed to touch those at that moment. That would, maybe they were for somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that was the one that was going to be in the Bible.
Yeah.
and
Yes.
kaboom. And silver and gold have I none, such I have it. I give in the name of Jesus. Well,
Yeah.
kaboom. And it just happened. See, and if when it's a rhema, it's impossible for it not to happen.
Yeah.
Not to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess the hunger that will be in people's hearts right now as they are listening is, how do I cultivate? I have to listen for it, you
The
said.
first,
Yes.
I appreciate the how to. I would encourage you, get a copy of the book. Just get on our website. We'll get that out. I think it's $15 or something. I'm not sure what it is on the website anymore. It kind of fluctuates with what's going on. But I've got plenty of them here. We'd love to, get those to you. You can pay just to hit at the PayPal there and all that type of stuff. They're on audio, on the platform. Well, the platform right there where you're seeing on Kindle or Amazon or whatever.
Amazon,
Also at Destiny Image. But if you want, get a book from us, because we'll sell a book and it'll help our ministry. Right now this is crazy time, Lon, for money and all that. I had to cancel 7 international trips last year.
Wow.
And those affect our income. So in any event, we'd appreciate it. But seriously, I mean, start with something that can be a tutorial, give you a framework and a skeleton to work with, and then you can apply it, and you'll at least know you're going in the right, direction for that. And I think the number thing is, and I like what your pastor said there, Lon, in Nigeria, because what he was saying basically is, I've developed an ear for this. I'm waiting for it all the time. I'm not just like closed-minded ear. I'm waiting for that voice, and I know the deal. I know what it feels like.
Yeah,
I've experienced it. Sometimes I'm not saying I get everyone right. Okay,
yeah,
that's really important because it's just because we're in a learning curve, and God, it's just I'm learning as I go.
Yeah.
But I know this: if you are waiting for it, if you want it, and you're willing to wait on God to give you an answer rather than you trying to just give an answer, which may or may not be, God. A lot of times you'll hear that. I think many times we jump too quick and we don't let the Lord, do it. I wasn't looking to sell my business at all when God said, sell your business. I wasn't looking that much to do international ministry. I had a big church. I had, and again, it was just almost like the scenario. We had influence in the city. We had, we were doing these community transformation initiatives and movements and unity meetings, all this stuff. And but when God said that, I mean, I know the voice, and I know that I don't know about you, but I want the faith infused utterance, because it's just a whole different level. I mean, it's just a whole different level of faith. And you have the top down faith. You have people with the gift of faith, the charisma of faith.
Yes.
A word of faith, as well as the rhema of faith. So there's a lot of different things that mix in and out of this.
And people just lump it into one. Wow, awesome. So let's talk about, you have a passion for what I would call a different kind of church, like I was talking about, like a kingdom focused church community and all that. Can you talk about that? And I would like us to talk about your international ministry after then. But, can you talk about that concept of church that you talked about in Church at Community?
Well, I'll be happy to. And this is really important for you out there listening. And this is the way I kind of do it. I don't know if I did it a long time ago, Lon, when we were doing some of the early Church at Community stuff with you guys.
Yes.
But to me, there's 3 types of churches. All right. There's a Christian fellowship. All right. That's one type that's just a bunch of fellows in the same ship who are Christians. Okay. And, it's upward and inward, but it's not very outward. All right. Now, as Africans coming from Africa, I mean, you guys are so salvation conscious. It's wonderful to, I've never seen anything like it on any continent. Maybe Latin America might, you come in first place. Latin America is behind you by about 100 yards. Okay, 100 meters.
Yeah.
So to an African, that may sound funny, but we can, after you get used to church, the evangelism, the outward ministry seems to start disappearing, and your upward and inward ministry starts to move in. Everything starts to be about your church and growing your church and growing. The discipleship kind of takes over evangelism, but it becomes a bubble. It becomes inward.
Yeah.
And it spins in. And of course, the problem with that is that, if you let it spin in long enough, it'll just implode, and explode.
Yeah.
Because God says you're supposed to be upward, inward, and outward all at the same time. And you forgot the outward. We're supposed to reach the lost, disciple the found, release the ready. Reach the lost, disciple the found, release the ready. Reach the lost. Okay, disciple the found. Okay, so the Christian fellowship, I call that a holy huddle, us four and no more, and everybody else out the door. Okay, and so, and then there's the second type of church, and we have a lot of those in Phoenix. They are wonderful and they get people saved. They tend to be larger churches, but they take from the community money and people and all that. But they don't give anything back to the community. It's all about growing their Disneyland, or their organization, or whatever it is. Pretty soon the people are on golf carts like Disneyland, bringing people into their front doors and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I love these guys, but they're getting people saved, but they aren't giving anything back to the community. It's a big church, but the mayor doesn't even know they're there. The food banks never heard of them. All these different things, that are going on. And here's a chance to really impact the community, but they're just known in the church world, not in the outside of the church world. And they run around and they measure themselves by themselves, compare themselves with themselves and without understanding, and all that type of stuff. They get routinized within those circles, and they all preach in their own circles. And so that's better. I mean, they're upward, inward, and outward, but they're not they don't see the community. They don't understand that we're here as a church because they're here for the community.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yes.
And they don't we're here because salt can't flavor what it doesn't touch. All of those sayings. And so they take, but they don't give back. And then there's the final version of the church, which is what I wrote about in Church at Community. And that's a church for the community. In other words, the church understands that we're here to make the community better. We're not here for ourselves. Seek first the community of God, and all these churches will be added unto you. So you grow your church by growing the community. And you become what you guys are doing, the Glow. Great leadership, outstanding witness,
that one. I had the honor of appearing in one of your books. How did I know that you wrote, somebody from South Africa sent me a mail and said, "We saw your name in a book." I was like, "What book?" And they said, "A book by Dr. Ed Delph." I went to get the book. Oh, you're talking about Glow there. Yes.
Did you? You're in, I think, it's in City Changers.
Yes.
Yes,
it's City Changers.
I'm looking for City Changers.
I have it here. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes.
There you go. City Changers. And these are just small books we have. And this is a practical book. It's things that your people can do that are, engage them in the community. I always say your roots are in church, but your fruits are in the community.
Yes.
Your roots are in church, but your fruits are in the community. If you're in marketing, you're not marketing, you're manifesting.
Wow.
You're making God known. You're making Christ known in that space that you're in.
Yes.
And you have in your hands what God has in his heart. So you're see, if the insiders won't go outside, the outsiders won't come inside.
Wow, all these statements, you guys need to get these books, Church at Community and City Changers. You'll be able to get all these things, statements that he's making, and they will just go inside of you. I can remember one that I will never forget. I say it everywhere, and I teach around Africa, and I mention it's from you that the church is the only organization that was set up for the benefit of those who are not part of it, of the outside.
That's right.
Yes.
It's just for its future members. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And no, I have a million of those things, Pastor Lon. Actually, I have it's really kind of a cool thing. We made it in South Africa. The next time I'm with you, I'll give one to you.
Okay.
It's right here. And we had them. It's all these incredible one-liners.
Wow! I need that. I want that.
It's Go Global. It's called Go Global 2016. That's when we did this for a large church in Cape Town, Kapstad, and it's called Friend of God Church and so forth. But it's got all these statements. See all these quotes and all these dumb things. All these not dumb things, crazy, wonderful things I'm saying. But it is so true that. We got to give back to the community. If we're taking profit, if we're taking tithes from the community, if you're a businessman, if you're taking profit from the community, be sure and give back to the community. If you have a business, Chicago, your area, Chicago, is your church. In other words, make sure you tithe and all that. I'm not saying don't tithe. What I'm saying is that, you know what? If you give back to the church, give back to a product, give back to a project going on in the church, and you're investing in your city, and that's your church. You've heard me say, people used to ask me, Ed, how big is your church? How big is your church?
I use that one too. I've used it everywhere in conferences.
The 4 million people, and but my congregation averaged 775, 800, but my church is the community, So, I just think that is so good. We were filled to be spilled. We're carriers and we're couriers of going out to the community. I mean, think of this: Earth wasn't going to heaven, so heaven had to come to earth. Jesus pitched his tent in the neighborhood. He was the first neighborhood activist. I can go on with these things, but why we need these churches for the community, Pastor Lon, is that, think of it, out of the churches in the world, let's just take the American context here, or Western context, 20% are growing, 20-30% are growing, the rest are kind of stable or dropping, okay? And of the 20% that are growing, of the 30% that are growing, just think of this. They hold on, I'm trying to pick up this thought. They're having bigger services inside the walls, but we're losing the culture outside of the walls.
Yes.
And that's my big concern. Jesus doesn't just want to get bodies in chairs. He wants to change the culture. He wants to change the community. And so that's why we need these types of churches. And the more we have church at communities, or church for the community, the more the city is going to become our church. That's going to bring influence. It's going to bring growth. It's a win-win. And that's why I always say, seek first the community of God, and all these churches shall be added unto you.
Awesome. Wow. And that was the message that really, really was an inflection point in my own ministry, reading your book. I would like you to speak now, just move on. I want you to speak about the apostolic ministry. I know you've written a book on that too. And then just use that to link up with what you do worldwide, 100 nations. And I want to explore that. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is what the book looks like. Peter Wagner was the main endorser of it. He says the first book he's ever seen that presents the apostolic clearly. All right. In today's world, I'll get it right up there. In today's world, clarity is a rarity. And notice this. I think this is the one. If you bring back up there, Pastor Ola.
Okay.
There we go. Achieving balance through fullness.
Mm.
And I think that's what apostles
Mhm.
were meant to do. They have radar. Apostolic ministry
Mhm.
is they have radar like none of the other gifts. You
Mm.
know, if you ask me what makes you apostolic? Well, does apostles heal? Well, the lady in the back row can heal.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, well, apostles are fathers. Well, I know John MacArthur is a teacher and he's a father, so that doesn't make you apostolic.
Yeah.
Well, apostles have a network of churches. Well, I know an evangelist in Argentina that's got 1,600 churches, and he would never say that he's an apostle. Okay,
Yeah.
so I mean, I can go down. There's about 30 of those things I use when I'm presenting this. I just give you an idea. But what truly makes you apostolic? And that is, apostles have one thing on their mind.
Mm.
Does this Christian, does this church, does this community, does this city, does this country look like Jesus in character, ministry, and mission?
Hmm.
In other words, character, ministry, mission. So in other words, they have a radar for that which is lacking, wanting, and need of building up. In
Mm.
other words, they'll come in and they'll say, you guys, let's say, well, I'll use the Corinthian church.
Mhm.
Here's the church in Corinth, all kinds of gifts,
Mhm.
all kinds of gifts, but no character,
Mhm. Mhm.
no love, no character.
Mhm.
So Paul comes in, he was the father of the church. He
Mhm.
says, you know what, guys, I'm giving you an A plus
Mm.
on the gifts.
Mm. Mm.
You got it, A plus.
Yeah.
But I'm giving you an F minus on character.
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So what do we do? Paul didn't say, okay, Corinthian church, you got to quit doing the gifts. He
Mhm.
said, let's start working on our character, which starts with love. Let's
Mhm.
figure out this whole thing of love. Once you love, it's really easy to have character. When you don't have love, it's hard to have character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that's what's kind of his main thing. So let's grow. You don't have to give up, keep it up here, but let's bring up this to match it. And
Mhm.
so that it's balanced
Alan.
to fullness.
Mhm.
Yeah. Here's the Roman church. They got all kinds of, Romans 1. They have all kinds of character, but no gifts. What does Paul say?
Yeah.
I long to come lay my hand
To
on you
impart
to
something.
impart a gift. So apostles bring in that which is lacking, wanting, or in need of building up to
Mm.
making sure that the church and the Christian are, and
Bad.
this is predestined, conform to the image of Christ.
Christ.
He's predestined us to become conformed to the image of Christ. So
Mhm.
you're conformed over here in the gifts,
Mhm.
but you're pretty pitiful over here in the character. So
Yeah.
let's bring in that. And
Mhm.
so apostles, they just have that radar.
Yeah.
That's what makes them unique. No other office
Yeah.
has that capacity. And
Mhm.
it's a God-given capacity. It's not competency, it's capacity.
Mhm.
Has that capacity to have radar. I mean, I sometimes I scare myself, Lon, on this thing because I find that one night I'm speaking at a Baptist church, and
Mhm.
afterwards I'm talking to the pastor. I say, "Have you guys ever heard of the gifts?" I mean, and then the next night I'm at the uh, charismatic accident church. You know what I'm saying? The charismatic church, and I said, you guys ever heard of character over here? You got a lot of characters, but I don't see too much character.
Mhm.
So the point is, you look like Jesus here, but you don't hear. So
Mhm.
let's bring in that which is lacking, wanting, needed, building up. You see this in 2 Peter. I call it my church and community book, the 2 Peter principle,
Mhm.
where there's that verse that says in chapter 1, add to your faith. He says you look A plus
Yeah.
in faith, but
Yeah.
now add,
Right too.
you know, yeah, add character and
Mhm.
add brotherly kindness and add each one. So it's not a matter of taking away, it's a matter of adding and growing. And as you add each of those things, you look more and more like Jesus in
Yeah.
character, ministry, and mission.
Wow. Awesome. That is so powerful.
That's all the apostolic ministry does.
Mhm.
Apostolic is not a status, it's a
Mhm.
task.
It's a task. It's an assignment.
Yeah, it's an assignment, and that is to make sure that the church is lined up with the chief cornerstone. In other words, if you're going to build the house of the Lord, if you're going to build a city, use architect and builder's God, you got to be lined up to the chief cornerstone. I'll raise it up here.
Yeah.
And everything else needs to be lined up to the measurements of Jesus. It's got to look like Jesus in character, ministry, and mission. So it's just a matter of making sure that everybody's lined up to Christ, so that the earth can be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, just like the waters cover the sea.
Wow. Powerful, 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 powerful. So let's talk about where we are, like 15 minutes to the end.
Great,
But I want to talk about your international ministry. 100 nations. How did you manage that? How did that happen?
Well, it's interesting, and for those of you out there that are starting to travel a bit and minister and stuff like that,
like me. So I really want to hear that.
Hey, Lon, we need to do something together. We need to be partnering.
We've been talking about this. As soon as
the next thing you get, just call me.
Yes, I'll call you.
The next thing you get, just call me, because I don't just cognize you. I recognize you, baby. Are you with me? Sorry about calling the baby on that, but it's just an American thing. Sorry about that.
I know, I got it. I will give you a call, definitely. I talked to you about it once, but I never followed up. But I think the time has come. When all this is over, we got to go. Yeah.
God just gives. He gives me the same thing He gives you, and that's favor with God and favor with man.
Yeah.
And it would be a powerful combination in that sense, because I'm so my whole ministry is on revelation. I don't do information. I do what. I don't just do what. I do why the what. Okay. And once people get that, that's the aha moment. And people aren't ready to apply a truth until they understand why the what. So it moves from information to revelation to transformation, the head, the heart, the feet. You've heard me say that. So my job is to communicate. Lon, if I didn't communicate, I didn't do my job. And so my measurement on everything is, did the audience hear with understanding and application of the message? In other words, have I not just given them what, like some college professor would do? They just have you, here's the what, memorize it long enough so you can pass the test and then forget it. I'm not after information. I'm after transformation.
Yeah.
And so it comes from revelation, which comes from illumination. So I always say we start off with information, then it moves to revelation through illumination. Then we have transformation, and then incarnation, which is going to require a little perspiration. Okay, so I'll just leave it with that. Okay? That's my process there. Okay, I dare somebody to write that out down below. Okay.
Somebody pick up the challenge. So so regarding the travel.
Somebody take that.
Yeah.
How it started was, when the pastor called me up in '79. To me, I still have my business. I was a marketplace person. I just was sharing my testimony. And as that first travel, it was kind of a whole thing of unfolding and adventuring. But as I began to work on that, and the next year I did that with Harvey Lissy, the same group, and the year following with Harvey Lissy. Pretty soon I'm in Pakistan. Back in the 80s, Americans could go into Pakistan, no problem at all. And I thought Pakistan, I spent a lot of time in Pakistan. And, so you go, and then somebody hears you. Some guy one time heard me from Norway. He's a Norwegian pastor. He said, we got to have you come to Norway. And man, I spent 15 years going to Norway every year, And then when you're in Norway, then somebody from Switzerland hears it, or somebody from Sweden, or somebody from Poland, or whatever, and it's just word of mouth, Lon. So that's the way it happens. Now, here's the weird thing about mine, and guys, you might watch for this pattern, because I think it does happen. When you establish a beachhead, okay, some clients. I call them clients, but some customers. Some people are accessing what you have and want it and excited about it. And so you establish those beachheads, and then as you speak at those guys and develop a relationship, even if it's small, I don't care if it's small. When I saw you guys were, your size, but I said, this guy, he's, this is just beginning steps. This is just, building the airplane like it's flying. And here, look at you later, you're touching all these things. You're doing community things. You're well known in the city. It just keeps going. So I thought, this dog I want to stay in touch with. This is I got to run with this guy. And this wonderful Nigerian here. I shouldn't say dog. Excuse me, guys. That may be a bad thing to say in your culture. Forgive me. But using the Southern expression, this guy he will hunt. So as you get those things, so I started in Indonesia and spoke there for many years. Still do. Love Indonesia. I always go back just to honor it. And but then from there it went to India, and I did so much in India. I've been to India 20 times. Wow. That's why I'm a little crazy. When you go to India, you may come back with a little touch of crazy in you. And those Indian guys, they're wonderful. But and then it moved from India to Africa, because I met some guys, Thomas Muthe, some different guys over there. In Kenya and so forth. South Africa I went to in 1981, still apartheid times, back in those days. And but I still kept, they still kept asking me back, and so it just starts to happen. So then I moved to Africa. It was all up and down Africa, which was the greatest experience of my life. I still go back to South Africa probably 2 or 3 times a year now. I'm the TD Jakes of South Africa right now, man. I just can't get out of there right now. And it's still in New Zealand, and so forth. But then it went to Africa, and then it went up to Europe. I got real involved. In 13 months, I was in England 9 times. 13 months. I couldn't get out of England, and that, of course, that spreads to France. And then Ed Savoso came along, and we're doing Latin America, all the big community transformation conferences. I spoke with Ed for 12 years, and doing his conferences in Argentina. Have hundreds of friends in Argentina. There's probably 200 or 300 Argentines on my Facebook, So, and then from there, of course, the United States we're always doing, and did quite a bit in Canada. And then it kind of, New Zealand and Australia. Then I went down to New Zealand and Australia because somebody heard me. And then that dribbled over to Australia. Actually, I'd been in Australia before. So Australia has been always kind of a funny country for me, because they'll really have me a lot, and then you won't hear from them for a few years. And then they'll really have you a lot. They're kind of Aussies, I can't describe Aussies. They're wonderful. But and then it's ended up the last 20 years or so, I've been really immersed heavily in the whole English-speaking Chinese world. And the Chinese, Lon, are amazing people. You just don't, Lawrence Kong had me. It's the 3rd biggest church in Singapore. I did their Love Singapore. I had 580 Singapore pastors in Malacca, Malaysia for 4 days. Bobby Cha just asked me to speak at the 2nd biggest church, at Kong Hee's church. So when COVID's over and all that, we'll go. I mean, I'm speaking to all these huge churches all over the place. You've never heard of me in America, but I'm having too much fun in the world. So, it's just, I'm nearly famous, Pastor Lon, nearly famous.
As we are talking, something is just bubbling in my spirit, because I feel that what you are talking about is what I'm supposed to do at one point in my life. Just kicked it off. Maybe
I agree.
I've done 20 nations or so, but got to expand. So I just have to maybe be your handbag and just
No. No, we go as equals or we don't go. It might be equals. It's equal status, different roles. Okay, we might have a little bit different.
You
It'll
know.
be the same message, but through your grid and through my apostolic thing and through your pastoral apostolic, it'll people will see the same thing through kind of two different lenses, and it'll
Yeah.
broaden them out.
Yes.
And so forth. Anything you do is, I know it's going to be, have character,
Mm.
have meaning, and it's well thought through.
Mm.
And I know Debo will get all over your case if you don't do that. I
Yes.
mean, I know that woman. She's small, but she's big. Okay, she's
Yep. Yep.
and all of that.
So how did you handle, I mean, just, this 625, but I wanted to ask, how did you handle family, your kids and wife with all the travels?
Boy, and that's such a great question. What I've learned, Lon, is that it's a calling. If I'm called, then, and I'm with them, then they're called.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how many times I had people pull me out of prophetic people pull me out of an audience. They heard me speak and all that, and I'm in the front row, but so I'm kind of a big target. But it was interesting. It was the same prophecy most every time, and that is, it was something like this: don't worry about your wife, don't worry about your kids. God's given them the grace to do this. You need to do what you're doing. And honestly, that was a miracle. Without that prophetic word,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if I would have continued on as long as I have.
Yeah.
Number two is that I married, somebody who's very secure in her own right.
Miss
If you
Becky.
know prophetic Beck, and I call her that she has the brunette anointing. Okay, and she's secure in her own right, and all of that. And she did a whale of a job in raising our boys. And our boys just loved it because I made sure that I always involved them in. When I came back, I would give them a little piece of the offering and say, "Look, guys, look how much we made," and so forth. And I give Matthew, if it's a good trip, and these guys are like 15, 16, 17, and then I'd pull out a $50, and give it to them. And like those kids, I think I bribed them to like what I'm doing. but honestly, those things you have to be really wary. And the final thing I want to say on that is, and anybody out there traveling, I think you have to give. What I did is gave Becky the final say in whether I go or not. In other words, I told Becky.
People would like that. I'm sure she's smiling, about that one.
Yeah, it's like Becky, and she's pulled out that card a few times. Ed, you're gone too much. The boys are starting to miss you. You're just gone too much, and I'd cancel it. If the thing is, I need to follow through on that. What I'm saying, or it's not any good. So I mean, I canceled several trips. And we just rescheduled them off in the future. And I didn't want to lose no desire to lose my family. So I've got my youngest son is doing great. He's a PhD in geophysics at Purdue, which is real close to you.
Yeah, Indiana.
And it's really, really exciting. My Matt is a captain. He's over a captain now. He's beyond that in his fire department at 34 years old. He's amazing. All that kind of stuff. And Kristen is like Nautilus. She's running a large insurance company called Nautilus, and she's their communications director. And she's like changing the whole corporate culture of that organization. It's a huge organization out of Connecticut.
Yeah.
So all three kids are doing really well. And all we can do is praise God and thank Becky. And thank you, God, for not letting me shoot myself in the head, like so many guys have.
Yeah.
And you have to be graced for it.
Yeah.
You cannot marry your counseling case, okay? Or you just won't. It has to be a person that's secure and operating from a. She knows how to live from acceptance, not for acceptance, and from significance, not for significance, from being loved rather than for being loved. It's I wouldn't do that. And when I was dating, I had one that dating a wonderful gal, but I just felt like she might have had some issues, and little bit in insecurity, and I
Mhm.
didn't want to make her life miserable. I just really didn't. There was just two gals, and this one was yes, and that was no.
Mhm.
Nothing wrong with either one. And
Yeah.
she ended up marrying the best guy for her ever. Kelly, we're dear friends,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
it just worked out beautifully.
Yeah. I mean, that was a lot of great advice that you just gave me, and a lot of people that are watching right now who are in this
Yeah,
apostolic
it's
traveling, ministry. Yeah. That's a
yeah.
lot of wise words.
You want to have your radar up on those kids and on your wife,
Mm-hmm.
but Becky always had the gun. She didn't play it too often. She didn't overuse it. She didn't cry wolf.
Mm-hmm.
She really respected because she knew it was a calling. She knew what she was getting when she married me. She said, "This guy. He was. He's a case out there.
Yeah.
He's."
Mm-hmm.
But so she knew what she was getting, and she was right.
Mm-hmm.
But she was able to manage that and work around it, and together we, have this very unique relationship that's coming up 38 years now, and I'm just so pleased.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Wow. Usually we just open it up now for questions from the audience. I think I'll just do a bit. It's 6:30 on the dot. If you are okay, I hope you can still stay
Yeah,
on.
no problem. No
Okay,
problem
all
with
right.
me.
Yeah. So please, those of you who are watching, you've heard Dr. Delph, just talk on different things, inspiring. Just put in your question in there, and I'll read those questions to him, and he will address the question. So while I'm waiting for that, I want to just put a question in there. In the traveling thing, there are some dangers, right? I'm sure you faced some danger. Like, what do you think are the perils of apostolic international ministry? The perils, like dangers and all that.
Well, that's a great question. I think the perils
Mm,
are being misunderstood.
mm,
I think the perils sometimes you have to say something that is a sacred cow.
mm,
Or you said something you didn't even know was a sacred cow in the church,
mhm,
and you hit that thing. And I always have a saying about sacred cows. Sacred cows make the best hamburger. But the point of it is that actually, it's Mark Twain said that. But what I'm saying is that if it moves, it's a cow. You
mm,
know, and so every once in a while, I'll hit something that is a value of that church,
mhm,
and I didn't know it. I wouldn't address it on purpose unless the good Lord told me to.
yeah. Mhm,
And but I'm here to be a blessing. I always tell the pastor, listen, guys, I'll never, even if they're some type of church that I may not necessarily be the most excited about.
mhm,
I tell them, I will never take anything away from you.
mm,
I'll never,
yeah.
your values are your values. I'm here to be a blessing. Now, I might add something to you
Mhm,
to get you
yeah.
thinking bigger,
Mhm,
because that's what apostolic does, brings in that which is lacking, wanting, need. So I might add this thing and
mm,
say, it's great to be a, excuse me, a prosperity church or something like that.
mm,
But, if you thought about this, make it a step that they could take.
mm,
Uh, but I'm not going to go after their, you're crazy and you're too far in prosperity or something like that. I'm
mhm,
just not going to do that, because I'm there to be a blessing, and I don't want any roadkill after I speak. I don't want any
mm,
the poor pastor to do any damage control. I don't need to create any more work for him, but
mhm,
I want to be a blessing. But I will address what I believe, but I'll put it God's way, but nicely,
yeah.
and try and influence them
Mhm.
rather than pull an authority trip over them or something like that. I don't have the authority anyway.
Awesome. I have a question here. You write many books from what I can see. How do you manage to write all those books with your traveling schedule?
Well, that is a great question. What I do, like for redefining rhema, um, I got Dave started on his 5 chapters, okay,
Mm,
because he's a first time author,
mhm,
and he's not the highest educated. He's completely a competent, high capacity, high competency person, but
mhm,
not, he just hasn't had experience in writing a book.
mhm,
And so what I try to do is mentor him in that, disciple him. Let's do something like that. I tried to have him write it,
mhm,
and it didn't come out as well. So what I had him do is preach it, and then we just put it in his, as he was preaching, we put it in his phone and gave it to Translation Monkey. And they translated it all. They had it back to us the next day. Then I gave it to my editor, and who happened to be there listening to him. And then she turned it into a very well written thing that's professional and all that. So get those types of resources. But what I did when it came my turn, I just said, okay, I got to take three months off and write this sucker. And I never write at home or in my office. I go to the library. Okay, so go to some place that's where the refrigerator's not staring at you, where something like that's not staring at you. You know, go to the library and find a place and a space that you can write. I wouldn't recommend that you write over 4 hours at a time, 4 hours in a bunch, because you start to lose a little creativity and all that kind of stuff. And so what I have to do to answer your question, good question, is I have to set time aside to do that. Peter Wagner did the same thing. He taught me that. You just take everything off and do it, you know. And so that's what I would say. 5 of my books are actually, I write a newspaper article in the Phoenix area. It's really expanded, Pastor Lon. I mean, big time. And this book right here, City Changes, they're all articles I've done in our local newspapers here in Phoenix. And I just put articles together and around a subject. This one was City Changers. This one is called The 5-Minute Miracle, Standing Out by Becoming Outstanding. So I pulled 100 articles out. It's a Destiny Image book. It's in Korean also. It's been translated to other languages. And it's 100 ideas on how to stand out by becoming outstanding. I just pulled them from my newspaper articles, and basically you're writing a book. So I have 5 of them like that. Here's the one. Here's one called Blessed, Deeply Loved, Highly Favored, Amazingly Graced. Seeing yourself the way God sees you. It's an identity book. And so it's for people that have low self-esteem and all that. And it's just, you know, kind of reestablishing your God-given identity and all that. So these are all just from articles that I've written and put them together around the subject. So if you've done that, Pastor Lon, you've got all these messages. I mean, it would be nuts to get a ghostwriter, have somebody put that together, and you'll have a book. And I'd recommend that for any of you out there. I hope that helps you.
That's really great question and great answer. I mean, really, that's very helpful. Very helpful to me.
One more thing. Be sure when you're writing, there's a program called Grammarly.
Yes.
And you want to have that. After you write it, you just put it into Grammarly, and it goes through. It shows you all the crazy English mistakes you made and all that kind of stuff, misspellings. And then when it comes out, you just have to work your way through it, make the corrections. It helps you to think through the article a little bit better and reword it. And you know, you want that resource. It costs you, I think it's $119 a year, and it's the best $119 you'll ever spend.
How about distribution? How do you get it spread like that? I know you've worked with Charisma, you work with Destiny Image, and you probably self-published before. I mean, how do you do that?
I have 5 books that are self-published, and I have them printed in Malaysia. But my English editor here in Phoenix does those, and so she puts them into a form. Then you send them to the guy in Malaysia, Wilson is his name.
Okay, I'm gonna get his contact from you.
It's great, and it's 1/3 the price of America, and it's better printing. I mean, it's just amazing. So, you know, a book that cost me $2 here costs 70 cents there, and so it makes it cheap. And one thing too, Pastor Lon, just for you book writers out there, you know, these small books like this, Kenneth Hagin and Copeland, those guys changed the world by doing small books like this. And this book, it's great. What I was finding is countries like, well, in Africa, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, countries like that, they didn't have the disposable income to pay the $15 for the book, US, but they had enough money to pay $6, the equivalent of $6 or $5, and they only cost you 70 cents. And so you're getting this wonderful resource in their hands, then you can sign it because everybody's going to want you to sign it, because if you sign it, they get the anointing, and that's why
Yeah.
they want it. Okay, the Asians, they come up to me, oh, pastor, you sign, I get the anointing, la.
Awesome. Wow.
And that's Singaporean accent.
Awesome. Wow. Wow. You've really, really, really blessed us.
So these books are awesome. And the way people treat you when you write a book, honestly, Lon, and you probably experienced this yourself, because I know you probably have, but once people find out you're an author, they treat you a whole different way.
Yeah. Awesome. Great, great, great advice from the elder. We're going to take all that, and I'll contact you to distill them, and I will execute them. So watch out for me. In the next 2 years, I'm going to execute this stuff. Pastor,
Ron,
do you have a question for Dr. Delph before we wrap up?
Yes, I do. So, Dr. Delph, thank you very much, for
you are welcome.
you've been an amazing example to us. So my question for you is this: I know you travel a lot. You're a pastor, you're a father, husband, author. So how do you set boundaries? Everything that you do. You travel internationally. How do you set boundaries in everything that you do?
Great question. And I try and limit myself to 7 international trips, maybe 6 a year, so that it always gives me time to come back, refresh, restore. And I don't go any longer than 3 weeks. And in speaking, what that means is you have 3 weekends and 2 middles. Okay. The middle of the week. So you can do a lot of conferences, get a lot of stuff done in that 3 weeks. So I'll do a 2-week trip, which is 2 weekends in the middle, or I'll do a 3-week trip. It's like going to Africa. There's a lot of ministry there. And so I'll make those generally 3 weeks. And if I'm going to New Zealand, something like that, Australia, I'll make it 2 weeks in the middle. And just kind of do a few more trips so I can keep fresh, so I can stay on top of things, so I can stay in touch with Becky. And the kids are all grown now, but that's what I would say there, Alana, for short-term missionary, solutionary, like us. Okay. You don't want to. I would encourage you, and I know sometimes finances. Back in the 2008, 9, and 10, when we're in that recession there, that real severe recession, I had to make my trips 3 weeks because you couldn't get enough in honorariums and book sales, to really support the ministry. So I kind of, against my own, it just was hard, but we knew it would be hard. Because you got to keep going, keep the ministry going. You know how ministry is. It's like pedaling a bike, man. If you don't pedal, you fall over. So that was the kind of deal there. So we just adjust to, if it's good times, I'll probably do 2 more 2-week trips, which actually, it takes you a day or 2 to get there and a day or 2 to get back. It's more like 17 to 18 days rather than 14. But just to make sure I'm there by a Friday night, so I can start a Friday night and go all the way to the following Sunday night, and just try and pack myself up as much as I can.
Wow, awesome.
Does that answer your question, Ulu?
Yes, thank you.
One last question for you before we round up. You had to transition from pastoring to this apostolic ministry. I'm sure you went through a period of being attached to the church. How did you break that thing? How did you?
That is a very good question. And I think, Dr. Lon, where you are, it's a very hard place to be, because I did it for many years, where I'm pastoring a big church and I'm, doing the Kenya, or whatever, or back in those days, it was Ghana and that whole part of West Africa. I never went to Nigeria until it was with Dr. Tony, but and I need to go more of Nigeria. I feel like I've missed a little bit on this stuff. But the point of it is that at some point, Pastor, in my life, I don't know if this will happen in yours, but it just became too much. And I had to make a choice between a local congregation, and well, changing 800 people's lives or changing the world, And so I would say probably for you at some point it will be like that. And so be raising up your successor, and getting people ready and all that, so that you can't be successful until you get a successor.
Yes.
And you're actually stopping your own promotion.
Yes.
If you don't do that.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, you have these pastors that are jealous and possessive and don't want anybody to, replace themselves and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. They stop their own promotion, and then when they try and do it, there's nobody there that has the people's heart, that can preach, that all the various important things that you need for a pastoring. So to me, it was a journey. And I call it my heartometer. Excuse me. This is another one of these concepts. Okay, but my heartometer, when we started in Hosanna, it was totally. Even though I was doing 2 trips a year internationally, my heart was totally engaged on Hosanna Christian Fellowship.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, that's what I poured my effort to, my focus, everything. But as it begins to grow, and as that apostolic dimension begins to grow, and all that, your heartometer starts to move from a church to the church.
Yes. Yes.
It moves from a church to the church. And when you get over here, what happens is your people start to sense it.
Yeah.
And the sheep are pretty sharp. And you got to keep the sheep in shape. They got everything's got to be sheep shape. So in any event, but the whole idea of this is they begin to sense that, and at that point, you can go ahead and make that transition, like we did, and so forth, and do that. But watch your heartometer. You'll know. You move from a church to the church, and it's see, the Bible says, he's talking about Joseph, and he says in his younger days he was a shepherd. He was a pastor. He grew up cutting his teeth on pastoring to see what people are like, see what sheep are like, all of that kind of stuff. But then at some point he went from being a shepherd to running a nation. Influencing the nation. And so he started there. There's nothing wrong with this process of city lights and being right where you are. But I have a feeling you'll probably kind of go on a journey kind of like I did. And if I can draw that heartometer thing.
Yeah.
For you.
You're right. Wow. Thank you so much for that wisdom. Thank you. And
you're welcome.
This has been powerful. We will need to bring you back later. So
I want to. Anytime. You know that. You guys know that. Please.
Yes, we will. We will.
And I need to come back to the church, okay?
Yes. We need to
just call me, please. I'll make this space for you. Other than this, I just got back from Colorado Springs, had a really cool thing at Ted Haggart's old church. Spoke there for 4 days, doing some smaller things and stuff like that for them. Not in the great big church, but important stuff, for businessmen and all that. And I'll end up speaking at that church. But and then I did Las Vegas on the way home, or Las Vegas, New Mexico, not Nevada. On the way home, we got the pastors and some people there together. But then I've got a Phoenix next week. But the next few months, I'm not really doing anything significant. So please, if you want to fit me in, please feel free.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And that's one of the things I've learned about you. Like you let it out. If you have something to offer, don't hide it. Don't put your lamp under the table. Let people know, we got this revelation, you guys got to receive it.
Right now, my big thing, and you guys might enjoy this, especially is, here, Americans, but Nigerians, it's God gave me a revelation on momentum, on just the way momentum is, what it means. We all know about momentum, but we don't know momentum, And when you see this message, I just did it on for the pastors at Colorado Springs there, and holy smoke, it's a every time I do it, I did it in Hawaii and I got a standing ovation. Not even people didn't even, I just finished up. First time I'd ever done the message. And they just stood up and started cheering at this big name conference there in Honolulu last January, or a year ago, January. And when you could still travel and so forth. But, this whole idea of momentum, what it means, its significance, those types of things. But I mean, that's just one of a few. Since I've seen, we haven't done the rhema stuff at your church, which I've got a message called The Two Swords of the Lord. Yeah. And see, logos is a sword. The word is sharper than any two-edged sword, that verse. And then the sword of the Spirit, which is the rhema, the word of God, the rhema of God. So both of those are swords. And I have these swords and I just kind of go like this the whole time. And it just illustrates perfectly the whole idea of logos and rhema and how it works. I take them through how Jesus, what's the message called? How Jesus managed toxic temptations and precarious predicaments.
Wow.
And it's those three rhemas that he had and how it worked. And wait till you hear some of the revelation on that. You'll be seeing a counselor afterwards, I promise you.
All right. Do you have these messages on tape or somewhere, like recorded?
Yeah, they'll be somewhere. Just, I've got, 12 pages of Google on me. Some of these, and on YouTube, you can find them. Strain Communications, the people do Charisma Magazine, they published my Church of Community book. They're all excited. So they've got me back they have some of my stuff on their media platform, 5 messages that I gave them. And we're going to do a big promotion on Church of Community again, turn it into an ebook, doing all kinds of stuff. And we're going to have actual classes on their their social landing, landing site or landing platform, And so we're in the process of all of that. The guy by the name of Richard is working on that for me. So there's some nice things happening.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your wisdom. Thanks for always being accessible. Thanks for just over the years. It's been probably almost 14 years now. So since we've known you and worked together, and you've always been there. I really appreciate you. And all those words of encouragement, sometimes on WhatsApp, on Facebook, those things really go a long way. So,
well, Lon, that's because we care. That's because I care. I mean, that's a distinction of it's a difference. It's a distinctive of our ministry is that that's what the guys, I just was in Singapore before COVID and all that. And some guy announced, he says, do you realize Ed Delph has been here 18 years in a row and he's never done the same message here twice. And I become part of that church family. I get the best Chinese food, I mean, you just can't lose in a Singapore culture. And those guys are like people on steroids, man. They're just really sharp people. And I've taken a couple guys with me to Singapore. I'd like to take you.
Yeah, next time you are going, I'm going with you. Next time you are going to Singapore, Malaysia, I'm tagging along.
Yeah, and they love Africans, by the way. They just love Africans. So you can go in as the Nigerian American, and that will be perfect. Be proud of being an African. That's all I have to say about Africa. And 22 countries of Africa been pouring into you guys in all these years, and it's been wonderful. I appreciate every second of it, and appreciate you.
Thank you, Pastor Olu. Take us out.
So thank you very much, Dr. Deb. It's been amazing knowing you. It's been amazing, just hearing you. I like your simplicity. You are very simple. I remember when you came to Chicago, very simple. Yeah. I just want to appreciate you. And I remember when I sent you a text, you just said, I'm available. So I just want to appreciate you. And thank you for speaking to us today. It's been an amazing time. And I just want to appreciate everybody watching us online. Thank you for watching us. Please do me a favor. Make sure you share this thing, on your social media platforms, and just make sure I want this message to get across to a lot of people. So please make sure you do that. And see you same time. See you next week. Next week Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 5 p.m. And have a wonderful weekend. God bless you.
Don't forget to go to nationstrategy.com. Nationstrategy.com. You will get more information about Dr. Delph and all these books. You'll be able to order them. You can also find his books on Amazon too. So I read his books. So I have his books surrounding me here. I have been blessed. My life been transformed through his books. He has a unique way of writing, and he has a gift, with writing and with words that just penetrate your soul. So go ahead and get those books and, live your life and be the light that God has called you to be. Glow.
That's right. I'll take that.
So with that, we're going to sign off. Dr. Delph, you can stay. We're going to sign off social media. So bye-bye, everybody. We will see you next week. We're not having tomorrow. We'll see you next week, Wednesday, for Light 360 again. Bye.